Imagine walking into an ancient city and seeing a mountain of green rising above the stone walls. Giant terraces filled with exotic flowers, towering trees, and waterfalls cascading down like liquid silver. And in the middle of the desert, here was a paradise unlike anything else on earth. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. They're considered one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, but here's the mystery. We don't actually know if they ever existed. Today, we're going to explore the story of the Hanging Gardens, who might have built them, what they look like, and whether they were even real. Buckle up, this legend is about to get messy. To understand the Hanging Gardens, you first need to understand Babylon itself. Located in modern day Iraq, Babylon rose to power under King Hammurabi around 1800 BC, but it was centuries later, under another king in the 6th century BC, that the city became legendary. This king rebuilt Babylon on a massive scale. Huge temples, soaring walls, and the famous Ishtar Gate, decorated with the bright blue tiles and golden lions. Ancient writers describe Babylon as one of the greatest cities the world had ever seen. Wide streets, bustling markets, palaces, and a population in the hundreds of thousands. And in the middle of all this, supposedly, stood the Hanging Gardens, a massive tiered structure filled with greenery so lush that ancient travelers swore it was like walking into paradise. The first thing to note about the Hanging Gardens is this. None of the Babylonian records that we've uncovered even mentions them. No inscriptions, no building plans, no carvings, nothing. The earliest descriptions come from later Greek historians, centuries after the king's reign. Writers like Strabo, Diodorus Siculus, and the Philo of Byzantium described an enormous terrace garden irrigated by advanced machinery, possibly a kind of chain pump that lifted water from the Euphrates River. They claimed the gardens were built by the king for his wife, Amides of Media, who missed the green hills of her homeland. And to ease her homesickness, the king supposedly constructed this wonder in the desert, an artificial mountain overflowing with life. It's a romantic story and one that stuck for over 2,000 years. But here's the big question. Could they actually have built it? A structure of that scale, stone terraces stacked high, strong enough to hold tons of soil, water, and trees? This would have required incredible engineering. Ancient accounts describe vaulted stone terraces sealed with lead to prevent leaks, with water lifting devices constantly running to irrigate the plants. Imagine the manpower that was needed, hundreds of workers day and night just to keep it alive. Modern engineers debate whether such a system was possible with the technology of 2,600 years ago. Some say yes, pointing to the advances of aqueducts and irrigation systems of Mesopotamia. Others argue that it would have been nearly impossible to sustain such a garden in the harsh climate without leaving massive amounts of archaeological evidence behind. And yet, the idea refuses to die. Here's where things get a little weird. Despite decades of excavations in Babylon, no definitive ruins of the Hanging Gardens have ever been found. Archaeologists uncovered the king's palace, the foundations of temples, and even the Ishtar Gate, but there was no trace of a massive terraced garden. This has led some scholars to suggest that the Hanging Gardens weren't even in Babylon at all. Instead, they sort of argue that the gardens might have actually been in the Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire, about 300 miles north. Records from the Assyrian king describe building massive gardens with advanced irrigation, including aqueducts and water raising systems that sound a lot like the ones in the descriptions of the Hanging Gardens. It's possible that the Greek writers later confused Nineveh with Babylon, or maybe they deliberately attributed the wonder to the more famous city. Even if the Hanging Gardens never existed, their legend has had a massive cultural impact. They've inspired artists, poets, and architects for centuries. Renaissance paintings show them as fantastical green mountains rising from the desert. Modern movies and video games imagine them as futuristic eco-cities. The idea of creating a lush paradise in a barren land is so powerful that it just resonates across time. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that's part of why the stories lasted so long. Whether real or not, the Hanging Gardens represent human ambition, the desire to bend nature itself into something beautiful. It's the same drive behind skyscrapers, space exploration, or building artificial islands in Dubai. So, where does that leave us? Archaeologists continue to search, and satellite scans sometimes reveal strange patterns in the ground around Babylon and Nineveh. Could remains of the Hanging Gardens still be buried under centuries of sand and silt? It's possible. New technology like LiDAR is sort of rewriting what we know about the ancient world every year. It's uncovering lost cities and ruins once thought impossible to find. I'm pretty sure that whether or not we ever find proof that the Hanging Gardens will stay one of the most fascinating mysteries of the ancient world, because sometimes the idea of something is just as powerful as the reality. So, what do you think? Were the Hanging Gardens of Babylon a real engineering masterpiece or just a legend that got mixed up in history? Let me know down in the comments below. And like always, if you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe because next time we'll uncover another legend from the past that might not be what it seems.